What actually happens now, that unlike myself, you have literally several years to live on unless the United States wake up. The time bomb is ticking. With every second, the disaster is coming closer and closer. Unlike myself, you will have nowhere to defect to, unless you want to live in Antarctica with penguins. This is it. This is the last country of freedom and possibility. Educate yourself. Understand what's going on around you. You are not living at the time of peace. You are in a state of war. And you have precious little time to save yourself. It's simplistic. I know it sounds unpleasant. I know Americans don't like to listen to things which are unpleasant. But I have defected not to tell you the stories about such idiocy as microfilm, James Bond type espionage. This is garbage. You don't need any espionage anymore. I have come to talk about survival. It's a question of survival of this system. You may ask me, what is it in for me? Survival, obviously, because as I said, I am now in your boat. If we sing together, we'll sing beautifully together. There is no other place on this planet to defect to.
When the only constant in life is change, you need to be ready. This is the Man-Made Survival Show.
Hello everyone, my name is Jose Prado with Man-Made Survival. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel and watching this video. I greatly appreciate it because today I'm going to be sharing with you some very important information. So this podcast is particularly pretty important, or at least it is to me. I'm going to be showing you some videos today, and there's going to be some things that you can listen to because it shows the pattern of everything that I've been showing you for the past 2 videos and for the past weeks also, when I talk about the subject of war between Russia, China, and the United States. And also what I've been sharing is the crumbling of NATO. So that's going to play something major. But on this podcast, I'm going to be sharing with you a interview from 1984. This is a defector from the KGB. His name is Yuri Bezmenov. And it's really important what he's talking about. The original interview is about an hour long, but I'm only going to be playing you about 7 minutes of the whole entire thing because this is the most important. And, of course, I'm not going to play an entire hour. What I do want to do, though, is that I'm going to be uploading the entire interview on my channel so you can listen to it. And it has multiple. And another thing that I'm going to be sharing with you also is going to be something that another defector from Russia said. And his name is Stanislav Lunev. He was a former colonel from the GRU. I believe that's right. And he told us pretty much what's going to be happening when we do go to war against them, which is something that I've been warning about for a while now. But I'm gonna share this information with you, so I encourage you to share this with your friends, family, with anyone you know. Share in your own prepper group so you can kind of get the intel of the things that are going on and how things have been planned for a very, very long time. All right, so also please subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave your comments. I greatly appreciate it, and I always answer. And if I don't answer pretty quickly, I will get to you eventually. So please leave your comments in the comment section below. All right, so the first clip of this entire interview that I'm going to be playing for you from Yuri Bezmenov. All right, he's describing the 4 stages of how the KGB, which now is Russia, but back in those days, how they would pretty much destabilize an entire country. And the funny thing about it is that you can see a lot of the similarities on the things that this man is talking about and how the country is at this moment. All right, so there's going to be a few things that is going to surprise you. So I encourage you to listen to all of this all the way through the end, and also listen to the interview, the interview itself, because it has a lot of very important information. All right, so here's the first part of that video.
Well, you spoke several times before about ideological subversion. That is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand. When the Soviets used the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years, actually it's overfulfilled, because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. Your leftists in United States, all these professors and all these beautiful civil rights defenders, they are instrumental in the process of the subversion only to destabilize the nation. When their job is completed, they are not needed anymore. They know too much. Some of them, when they get disillusioned, when they see that Marxist-Leninists come to power, obviously they get offended. They think that they will come to power. That will never happen, of course. They will be lined up against the wall and shot. But they may turn into the most bitter enemies of Marxist-Leninists when they come to power. And that's what happened in Nicaragua. You remember most of these former Marxist-Leninists were either put to prison or one of them split, and now he's working against Sandinistas. It happened in Grenada when Maurice Bishop was already a Marxist. He was executed by a new Marxist who was more Marxist than this Marxist. Same happened in Afghanistan when first there was Taraki, he was killed by Amin, then Amin was killed by Babrak Karmal with the help of KGB. Same happened in Bangladesh when Mujibur Rahman, very pro-Soviet leftist, was assassinated by his own Marxist-Leninist military comrades.
All right, so as he said, the first stage is the demoralization, and that takes about 15 to 20 years to accomplish through education. All right, that is really important because it's something that we have known for a while now, that universities have kind of become a center for, I guess, Marxist training camps, I guess you could say, or I guess you can call them. And it's kind of like common knowledge nowadays, you know, as opposed to the old days when people used to think that wasn't happening. So I'm going to be playing a clip for you of someone putting a guillotine outside of Bezos' home, but I want you to look at the caption from the tweet. Here it is. All right, so that clip that you saw from, I guess the tweet came from Chicago Teachers Union. All right, and look at the caption, or the wording on there. We are completely frightened by, completely impressed by, and completely in support of whatever is headed. Hashtag solidarity. All right, so that is very dangerous for this teachers union to actually side with them. There could be two simple possibilities because simply of what they wrote. One of them is that they are with it, they're part of it, they recognize it, and they've taught it for however long they have been teaching it. And another thing is that they could possibly be frightened by it as well, as they said on the text. So they think that by siding with the enemy, it's going to keep them from actually being harmed. They're completely naive. As we have known from history in other places, not only from the KGB or, what is today Russia, or from China, or from any other time in the past, when you try to actually join forces with the enemy, they're going to question your loyalty. And if you're not loyal enough, they're going to kill you as well. So this teachers union trying to appease the people by retweeting a guillotine being posted in front of Jeff Bezos' home is a tragedy. It's a tragedy because it just goes to show that the intimidation is working to a certain level, and where it doesn't actually work, there's going to be conflict. All right, so I'm going to play the next stage as Yuri describes it. Here it is.
The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation. What matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast.
All right, so very simple, pretty straightforward. This destabilization, the second stage, which is destabilization, takes about 2 to 5 years to accomplish, and they target the major, the three main, I guess you can say, targets, which is economy, foreign relations, and defense. And of course, that makes a lot of sense because those are the things that we have seen. We have seen crumble in the past few months. So it shouldn't really surprise you that this information has come forth, or not that it has come forth, but that they have seen that this guy back in 1984 said it, but we're seeing it today, right? And something that he mentioned in this video is that they were very surprised on how advanced the stages were in the United States, that they could never have possibly dreamed it. But if it was that bad back in 1984, imagine how much worse it is now. So let's say that the old ways of the KGB are still within Russia, then you can bet that they're watching this very closely. They are looking at everything that's going on around the country very closely because, for one, they might be behind it. I'm gonna be playing you the third and fourth stage because it's pretty close together, so I might as well play it in one clip. Here it is.
The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized." This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not.
All right. Now, that one is the most important one. On that clip is the most important of the ones that I've shown you so far, because stage number 3 is violent change of power, structure, and economy. And stage number 4 is normalization, which is something that we have heard throughout all of this pandemic, which is the new normal, right? It's something that they have drilled into people's head, that they have to get used to it because it's the new normal. Even though people are fighting very strongly to go back to the old normal, without realizing that it will never be the same. So we are seeing these steps being taken right now, even though they were foretold to us in 1984. Right? So if we have had all this time to prepare, it's very unfortunate that we have not. And of course, since we did not see anything coming to fruition from the Cold War between the United States and the old KGB, excuse me, then I guess you could say that a lot of people left the guard down, and now we're seeing everything that's happening in the United States. Now, what are the chances, since we know that Russia and China are working together, that this has been the process all along? That even though they thought it was going to take 15 to 20 years, it actually took a lot longer than they thought. And now could be the best possible time to do it, especially since China is increasing 40% more than the United States by 2024, which is only 4 years away, right? And of course, Russia is not too far behind. Militarily, Russia has the upper hand as of right now. And you know, right now we're in a worse economic shape than we have ever been, especially since 1984. Now our debt has increased a lot. It's not the way it used to be. Now we're playing with monopoly money. And it won't be very long before no one takes the U.S. dollar serious, and people actually go away from it. So that's why it's important for us to prepare. Now, if man-made survival had existed since 1984, I would have been telling you what I'm telling you now, and we would have had a very long time to prepare. We would have had 36 years to prepare, but nevertheless, we have about 4, maybe less, to actually be prepared. So that's why it's very important for us to become very aggressive on finish our preparedness, and doing it in an actual logical way, understanding that there will be no supply chain, understanding that things will not be the same, understanding that if you do not prepare physically and mentally, especially mentally, to understand what's going to be happening in those days, we will not survive, especially as a country and also as a prepper movement. One of the things that he recommended for us to do as people against the government is that we should form some kind of strong national effort to force the government to stop aiding communists. Right? The way that we do it with communists now is with all the relationships that we have with China and Russia. We are giving them money through our factories, through the products that we ship from there, from pharmaceuticals to toys, to TVs, to the iPhones that we're using, computers that we're using. All of that has only increased China even faster. So if we stop from helping them out in increasing their amount of money that they're receiving from us as consumers, and we shift it somewhere else to where we could sacrifice a little bit of price change for security, then it would be worth it. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to be playing for you is going to be rather long because I cannot break it down as this video was. And it's, as I mentioned before, or a minute ago, is Colonel Lunev. And he's going to be telling us how the KGB, or excuse me, how Russia plans to invade the United States along with China. All right. He mentions in the video that China and Russia are working together for one day to go to war against the United States. And this colonel, he defected in 1992. All right, so it's been almost 30 years since he left the KGB or Russia, and he told us the plans that they had, and they've been working those plans since before 1984. All right, so this has been a long time in the making, and they're just waiting for the perfect opportunity for them to take advantage of it. Here's that video.
About 20 years I worked worldwide as the GRU operational intelligence officer against other countries, but first of all against China, because my training and education was connected with China. For our leaders and for our regular business, America was target number one, because we all believed that this war, you cannot avoid this war, and sometimes this war would be in place, and in this war we will need to provide all possible support for our military machine to receive victory in this war. If decision about war would be in place, Special Operation Forces commanders will come to this country. They will come here like tourists, like businessmen, like members of scientific delegations, or like private persons which would like to see something interest in Texas, Dallas area. They will come without any weapons by regular airlines, and of course, for the future war, they need to know where they will pick up weapon systems which are already stored in this country, and transfer themselves in few minutes from tourists, businessmen to soldiers. We, from Strategic Military Intelligence, provided all possible support for these commanders, and during peacetime we had obligation to find places for these so-called dead drops or storages for weapons system, communication devices, finally for documents, for all possible legalization papers. And during peacetime, in time when there is peace now, there is no war, we put weapon system in these storages, especially to be picked up by commanders who will fulfill their mission in time, in several days or few hours before real war would be in place. You understand that for so sensitive and important mission, these commanders need to have different types of weapons, not only handguns, submachine guns, machine guns, grenade launchers. They need to destroy targets which could not be destroyed by regular missile nuclear strike. Extremely highly protected targets in this country. Which targets? Chain of command: President, Vice President, Speaker of the House, Secretary of Defense, Joint Chief of Staff, and a lot of other people. They need to destroy power station, communication system. They need to destroy most important military installations which could not be destroyed by a regular missile nuclear strike. Why they need to destroy it? If I understand rightly, you do have a lot of former military just now. And you know that for the war preparation, every country has its own counter plan. And let's say if regular missile will start from Russia and would be directed to this country, after lunch, in few minutes, all this President, Vice President, and other people in chain of command would be on their route for evacuation. And when regular nuclear strike will come here, they would be aboard of Air Force One, Air Force Two, Air Force Three, and some other planes. You don't know about these planes, but they are on the parking lot underground at Andrews Air Force Base and other places. And they will escape. But this time they would be targets for Special Operation Forces commanders. You know NORAD headquarters. NORAD headquarters. It's in very, very deep in the mountains, between rocks, concrete, metal, everything. Is it possible to destroy it by a couple nuclear missiles? No. You need to have much more, or use Special Operation Force Commander who will destroy it from inside. So these targets need to be destroyed, especially to establish situation of chaos and panic in this country before regular war will come to this country. And of course, to destroy these targets, these commanders need to have very, very powerful weapons. And additionally to conventional weapon system, they already have, and maybe they already storage in this country, like tactical nuclear devices, so-called nuclear briefcases. It's not my crazy idea, guys. It's not Stan Lunev defector words. And his subordinates didn't find about 130 of these devices. They are not in Russia. They are abroad. They are in foreign countries. And please trust me, they are not only at Washington, D.C. or New York City. Keep in mind that Texas as a base for your military-industrial machine. Be sure that you have a couple of them very close to this place. So, tactical nuclear devices, chemical weapons, biological weapon system, they are already here and ready to be used. And please don't think that this is some kind of gas trailer. No, it's size, this size, small, teeny-weeny, which is located in woods, in the ground, in the sand. This location is known for Special Operation Forces commanders, and when they will come here, they will pick it up and use it. Use in mostly populated areas, in airports, in cities, in downtowns, especially to destroy infrastructure of this country before real war would be in place. And in 60s and 70s, it was planned. Then to the end of the day, 10th day of war, Soviet military would occupy the whole Europe, and 12th day, invasion would be in place in this country. This is very briefly general plan. Plus, looters. Millions of looters will come here.
Alright, so I hope you take this warning very clearly, because that's the way it's going to be. And if we're not prepared for it mentally, physically, and spiritually, we will not survive. So I encourage you to prepare, to look at your plan, alright, to be more realistic, to where you don't depend on the supply chain, or you don't think that the United States Army or government will be there to protect you. If you don't prepare in that aspect, then you are failing at preparedness. I'm gonna leave you with the last clip, and that's the warning from Yuri for all Americans, saying that there is nowhere else to escape like he did. Here it is.
He will go to Moscow to kiss the bottoms of new generation of Soviet assassins. Never mind. He will create false illusions that the situation is under control. Situation is not under control. Situation is disgustingly out of control. Most of the American politicians, media, and educational system trains another generation of people who think they are living at a peacetime. false. United States is in the state of war, undeclared total war against the basic principles and the foundations of this system. And the initiator of this war is not Comrade Andropov, of course. It's the system. However ridiculous it may sound, the world communist system or the world communist conspiracy, whether I scare some people or not, I don't give a hoot. If you are not scared by now, nothing can scare you. But you don't have to be paranoid about it. What actually happens now, that unlike myself, you have literally several years to live on unless the United States wake up. The time bomb is ticking. With every second, the disaster is coming closer and closer. Unlike myself, you will have nowhere to defect to, unless you want to live in Antarctica with penguins. This is it. This is the last country of freedom and possibility.
Okay, so what do we do? What is your recommendation to the American people?
Well, the immediate thing that comes to my mind is, of course, there must be a very strong national effort to educate people in the spirit of real patriotism, number one. Number two, to explain them the real danger of socialist, communist, whatever, welfare state, big brother government. If people will fail to grasp the impending danger of that development, nothing ever can help United States. You may kiss goodbye to your freedom, including freedoms to homosexuals, to prison inmate. All this freedom will vanish, evaporate in 5 seconds, including your precious lives. The second thing, the moment at least part of United States population is convinced that the danger is real, they have to force their government. And I'm not talking about sending letters, signing petitions, and all this beautiful, noble activity. I'm talking about forcing United States government to stop aiding communism. Because there is no other problem more burning and urgent than to stop the Soviet military-industrial complex from destroying whatever is left of the free world. And it is very easy to do. No credits, no technology, no money, no political or diplomatic recognition, and of course no such idiocy as grain deals to USSR. The Soviet people, 270 millions of Soviets, will be eternally thankful to you if you stop aiding a bunch of murderers who sit now in Kremlin and whom President Reagan respectfully calls government. They do not govern anything, least of all such complexity as the Soviet economy. So basic, two very simple, maybe too simplistic answers or solutions, but nevertheless they are the only solutions. Educate yourself, understand what's going on around you. You are not living at the time of peace. You are in a state of war, and you have precious little time to save yourself. You don't have much time, especially if you are talking about young generation. There's not much time left for convulsions and sexual masturbation to the beautiful disco music. Very soon it will go, just overnight. If we are talking about capitalists or wealthy businessmen, I think they are selling the rope on which they will hang very soon. If they don't stop, if they cannot curb their unsettled desire for profit, and if they keep on trading with the monster of the Soviet communism, they are going to hang very soon. And they will pray to be killed, but unfortunately they will be sent to Alaska probably to manage industry of slaves. It's simplistic. I know it sounds unpleasant. I know Americans don't like to listen to things which are unpleasant. But I have defected not to tell you the stories about such idiocy as microfilm, James Bond type espionage. This is garbage. You don't need any espionage anymore. I have come to talk about survival. It's a question of survival of this system. You may ask me, what is it in for me? Survival, obviously, because unlike, as I said, I am now in your boat. If we sing together, we'll sing beautifully together. There is no other place on this planet to defect to.